Another episode of King's Gridiron Challenge TV. Woo! Alright, we have finished the Madden division and we are now moving on to the Hallis division. We are going to go ahead and start with PimpDaddy. PimpDaddy, long-time participant to King's Gridiron Challenge. Multiple playoff appearances, made the playoffs last year, missed the playoffs the year before. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into his team here. Quarterback Tony Romo. Regardless of what people say about him, this guy puts up numbers. You might not like him in the NFL, but in fantasy he puts up numbers. He's good for close to 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns a year. He'll have his turnovers, he'll have his Brett Favre style plays, but he'll also have his great plays as well. Solid quarterback. They got him 400 points last year. That is a solid starting quarterback in our league. Larry Fitzgerald, Torrey Smith, Sidney Rice. 3 starting wide receivers. Larry Fitzgerald should get back on track with Bruce Arians and his deep passing attack in Arizona, along with Carson Palmer. Quarterback quality that Larry Fitzgerald has not had in quite a few years. Torrey Smith, he's going to have to step up to the #1 receiver in Baltimore with both Dennis Pitta and Anquan Bolden out. A lot of balls and targets going to come his way, also a lot of coverage. We're going to see this year if he can handle NFL coverage, #1 corners in and out every single week here. If he can perform big, that is a huge wide receiver for PimpDaddy. He's going to get a lot of the looks that Bolden and Pitta had, so the chances will go ahead and be there. Sidney Rice, this guy's a starting receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. He was great a few years back in Minnesota, never quite reached that potential again, never had Favre as a quarterback again after that huge season. We'll see what he can do. Seattle let Russell Wilson off the leash a little bit at the end of the last year. We'll see how that works. They will still be a run-based oriented team with Marshawn Lynch and the quality backup running backs they have there up in Seattle. Sidney Rice definitely serviceable. 100-point receiver last year in our league. That's going to be quality. But we'll see if he can get some above-average numbers and really push Pimp over the top with his wide receivers. Running back LaShawn McCoy. This guy is a top 5 fantasy running back year in and year out. We're going to see how he fits into Chip Kelly's offense. Some of the running backs in Oregon did really well. Guys, all the way from even LeGarrette Blount, a power runner, still rushed for 1,000 yards, even though Chip Kelly is known for the spread offense, crazy styles. I still think LaShawn McCoy is going to get his chances. He's going to run. He'll definitely catch the ball in that offense and put up some big numbers, top 5 fantasy running back numbers. Dustin Keller, this guy's a solid tight end for the Jets the last few years. He moves over to Miami. Tannehill's got himself a new weapon to play with. You got Lamar Miller, Daniel Thomas running the ball. You got Mike Wallace going deep, keeping the coverage back. There should be a lot of looks from Dustin Keller over the middle, those short to intermediate routes. He should put up a lot of catches. We'll see if he gets a lot of touchdowns or how they're going to run that, but we'll see. He's definitely a solid starting tight end for him. Tannehill can get a rapport going with him. He could be a real top 10 fantasy tight end for PimpDaddy. It's a good starting lineup there on offense. PimpDaddy's bench, I think we all know the story there. Michael Vick, Nick Foles, Matthew Barkley, trying to figure out who's going to be that starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Imagine once that decision is made by Chip Kelly, Foles or Vick will probably moved on from PimpDaddy's team. Barkley there looking to be the future. Definitely keep him around a couple years. Gavin Escobar, backup tight end in Dallas, has got a chance to put up some numbers and learn from a great one. And Jason Witten, probably not going to get a lot of opportunities this year. It'll probably be a learning experience for him. But Dallas could use a lot of 2 tight end sets, so we'll see how that goes. Brian Hartline, good solid wide receiver, #2 wide receiver in Miami. 110 points last year. That's definitely a solid guy to have on your bench coming in for bye weeks or injuries. Daryl Richardson, Isaiah Peed. They say right now that Richardson's #1 guy there in St. Louis. We'll see. They could be a running back by committee. Maybe one of those two, or Zach Stacy takes the reins there. Fisher usually likes to have a one back offense, not a running back by committee. But we're going to have to see how that plays out. PimpDaddy's waiting on that Rams running back situation, the Eagles quarterback situation to unfold to see how his bench actually really develops. Bryce Brown got to handcuff LaShawn McCoy just in case. He proved that he could put up some big numbers, may not be able to hold the load. He's got some fumbling issues. We'll see if he can correct those. Rob Hauser, tight end over in Arizona. Carson Palmer, I never thought he was a good quarterback for tight ends there in Cincinnati, but apparently they just never had a tight end, because we saw Brandon Myers put up 79 catches with Carson Palmer last year in Oakland. House has got a chance to really put up some big numbers this year. He's a real sleeper. Could be a gem, diamond in the rough there for PimpDaddy. Him and Hudson Keller is a nice, good 1-2 punch tight ends for him. Let's see, last person on offense, Pierre Thomas, solid running back. He'll get some catches. He'll get 500 or 600 yards. Going to be a bench player for him, a fill-in player. We'll see. Pierre Thomas. Mark Ingram, Sproles up there in New Orleans is running back by committee, but Pierre Thomas has always been a quality guy. Adam Vinatieri is kicker, solid guy, getting up there in age, but he's kicking in a dome up in Indianapolis, and as Andrew Luck showed, he's going to move the ball a lot up there, and Vinatieri's going to have a lot of chances for some field goals and extra points. Baltimore should be a stud defense for PimpDaddy. Some of the pundits say they've lost a lot, but they went ahead, and Arthur Brown's going to be a solid inside linebacker for him, I believe. Matt Elam, they got the replacement for Ed Reed. We're not saying that he's the same quality, but this guy's going to grow into his role up there. Also, Doomerville coming off the edge. You got Doomerville on one edge. You got Suggs on another edge. You got Courtney Upshaw there. Nagata up there in the defensive line. They really stout team they've got up there. If Darius Webb comes back from his injury that he has, he's their #1 corner, then they've got a chance to really stop some guys and put up some fantasy football points there in Baltimore. Tampa Bay's defense are going to be pretty solid. 285 points, actually 285 points exactly for both Tampa Bay and Baltimore. I think that Baltimore's definitely going to improve on that number. We'll see if Tampa Bay keeps that up. I know Tampa Bay's got Atlanta twice, New Orleans twice, even Carolina twice, as teams that could put up 30-plus points on any given Sunday. That's 6 games, Tampa Bay's defense. But definitely believe Pimp will be relying on Baltimore every weekend. Tampa Bay is a good backup, fill in if Baltimore plays any high-powered offenses. It just doesn't have a very good matchup. Baltimore, in my personal belief, is a top 5 fantasy defense. We will see if that comes around, though. IDPs. Charles Tillman, one of, if not the best fantasy football cornerback in the league. This guy tackles, interceptions, forced fumbles. How in the world does a cornerback force 10 fumbles in a season? That is just unbelievable. That defense there in Chicago, turnover machine. I know they're getting up there in age, but Tillman definitely produces. Darius Byrd, he just signed his contract up there in Buffalo. This guy's a solid safety. Definitely going to put up some points. Injury prone last year, but gets over those. This guy's also definitely a top IDP for defensive backs. Cliff Averill, the guy was a defensive end up in Detroit, real good. He's moving over to Seattle. Seattle's got a need for a pass rush, and they got Cliff Averill, Bennett. You put those guys together. Chris Clemens did some good things last few years in Seattle. And got Averill taking over that role. Clemens is injured before Bruce Irvin comes into his own, so Averill definitely has got a chance to improve on his 56 points from last year. James Laurinaitis, son of the Animal, for those of you that remember the Road Warriors, this guy put up 136 points last year. Went out and got 117 tackles. Definitely a stud linebacker and overall IDP. Pat Enger for Indianapolis, solid guy. He was hurt last year. My opinion, it's a bit of a question mark for a linebacker in this league. I think there's a lot of other guys who can replace, but maybe he's got some faith in him. Maybe he comes around and puts up big numbers again. Hurt last year, he'll have to get over that. Deion Jordan, defensive end in Miami, gonna have some growing pains as a rookie. but if he gets up there, they're going to have him play that Jason Taylor role, rushing the passer, dropping in to coverage with his athleticism. This guy's 6'6". He's going to be able to bat some balls down, pick off a few passes, long and lanky, get into the quarterback, tackles for losses, hurries, everything else. He's definitely a good guy to build on. PimpDaddy, smoke and mirrors last year. He was in the playoff hunt as one of the top teams all year long until the end when it came crashing down for him, unfortunately. We're going to look at his team here. We're going to go ahead and look at the House division, as we got PimpDaddy, the Bloody Sunday, C-Bob, and Bones of La Brea. We'll get into C-Bob later on. Looks like he's going to be the third team on the list for the House division. PimpDaddy, you got guys like Baltimore's defense, Tony Romo putting up points, Larry Fitzgerald and Sean McCoy, Laurinaitis, a stud, IDP along with Charles Tillman. That's enough guys to win you games every week. Can he do it on a consistent basis? We're going to see. PimpDaddy, 13-game season. We're going to go on record saying that he's got a solid 7-6 season. Probably even going to push 8-5. Some guy like Torrey Smith, Keller come around and have great years. He push himself up to 9-4. Probably not going to have a chance at the House Division title, but this is going to be a strong contender for a wild card spot. I believe this is going to be the first team that we consider for a strong wild card spot. Those in the Madden Division review remember that we predicted Pink Flamingos to win that division, but did not predict any wild cards coming out of the Madden. I think PimpDaddy is the first team so far that we're going to predict has a solid shot at a wild card this year. That is it for PimpDaddy and his review preview. Next up, we're going to do Bloody Sundays tomorrow.